Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed your workshops. We're now joined by a very special friend. I would like to welcome María Adelaida Lopez, the Executive Director of IO2. The Colombian social enterprise IO2 has worked for over a decade with the IO2 educational model, which recognizes children as protagonists and collaborators or co-builders of their learning, building their confidence and a sense of security to explore, ask, inquire, and create through participating in learning through play experiences. Among many brilliant roles, Maria is the most recent Lego Prize winner from 2022, and she can also create art and 3D models from vacuum dust. Let's hear her experiences of playful thinking and working to overcome social complexities. Over to you, Maria. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Tambi, this is great. It's such an honor for me to be here. And also, it is an honor for me to be the voice of IO2. Me gustaría saludar a todos los que están allá conectados de habla hispana. Qué maravilla estar acá y tener la oportunidad de compartirlo con ustedes. And Tambi, also thank you for mentioning my vacuum cleaner dust. That was a very nice surprise. I loved it.
Never seen it before. Love it.
Thank you. Well, but before we start, I would like you all to connect with the children of migrant families that have arrived in Colombia. And for that, we will, listen when they are in the park, when they play and learn together. So let's listen for a little bit.
Y hojas. Y hojas. Y vidrio y ventanas. Y necesitamos. Y tielas. Y necesitamos. Una sala bien grande para todos. Y una cocina. Un baño para bañarse. Un baño para bañarse. Yo lo estoy diciendo aquí.
What do you think is happening there?
Una bañera. Esta es una casa con flores, con una fruta, una flor, una misma y una
¿Y qué más?
comidita.
What are they playing?
Necesitamos 6 costales.
How does it make you feel? This is a park in Soacha, a place near of the capital of Colombia, South America. And for those of you who haven't been in Colombia, it is such a beautiful country, full of biological and diversity, but also it is, sadly, a country with high poverty rates and social challenges. And now it is the home for many Venezuelan migrants. As Tambi well said, IO2 is a social enterprise that is committed to transform communities in a very innovative and sustainable way, and we do it to the develop of full potential of children. We do it by operating public and private early childhood educational centers, a social online learning community, political impact initiatives, and high-impact systemic projects. During the past 15 years, we have impacted the lives of more than 800,000 children. Now, I would like to begin by sharing a bit of what is this that we are going to share during this time, what we have together. We will reflect on the construction of meaning through play while feeling displaced or having to move from place to place against our own will. We will share IO2's experience of commitment to the situation of Venezuelan migration in Colombia to promote a culture of peace, appreciation, and empathy. Understand how the pedagogy of place lies beyond activities. It is for us disposition or a way of interacting that occurs in everyday life, which immigration context facilitates and embraces uncertainty within finding new meanings in any circumstances that the day can bring. But let's take a moment and connect and find ourselves asking to this question. For you, what makes a place a home? What comes to your mind when you wonder, what makes a place a home? What do you think is a home for one of the 113,000 children that are part of almost 2,500,000 people that make up the Venezuelan population in Colombia? In meetings with families, we have heard testimonies of adults that say, I came from a place with open doors to a place with closed doors. Today we are here, tomorrow we don't know. Or we lived in borrowed places. Let me introduce you to Ezra. Ezra is the girl that you can see right now in the picture. We met her in 2022 in an IO2 center in Cartagena. Like thousands of children, she arrived in Colombia with her family. Many of these families in complex conditions and encountering a challenging context of reception and adaptation. Due to the government policies of implementation, the temporary protection statute for Venezuelan and Colombian returnees, Ezra, with the careful attention of the children, the teachers, and the IO2 professionals, was able to legalize her migratory process. This was so because the government considered early childhood essential to ensure that health, education, and welfare were given to the children. These migration processes have consequences, in health, in development, and exposure to adverse situations. The story of Ezra, Brittany, Sebastian, and other children led us to ask ourselves what we think about protection and access to quality education. How can we rethink in an emergency or crisis context? How do we listen to children, their families, and communities to make sense of this experience and give new meaning to their situation? Ezra is one of the faces behind migration statistics. She reminds us that each number represents a life, represents a person with ideas about the home left behind and the house they begin to inhabit. And her story is the story that answers many of these questions, as it makes us realize that all children should be welcome and have the right of quality education. Because children's optimal development and learning are only possible in a culture of peace, appreciation, and empathy, a context where children at the center, they are listened to, they are understood, and are invited to build together a culture to find meanings where they can feel free and in peace, taking risks, assuming responsibility, directing action, and thinking of possible paths that are necessary for this to happen. With this in mind, we invited ourselves to ask questions such as, how do we understand and embrace inclusion? How do we welcome and host children at any time or circumstance? How do we turn child development centers into spaces of social cohesion, not only for them, but also for their families, understanding where and how they are coming from? How do we mobilize entire communities so that our efforts do not remain in a classroom or in isolated activities? Now, let me ask you, what do you think a home represents for Ezra? What do you notice, for example, in these two drawings? What changes can you describe? Look at the drawings. Just after 6 months, Ezra showed significant progress in her development and reminded us that when beyond access, there are intentional interactions and actions, resources, and a genuine interest for the adults accompanying children, that they grow feeling safe and confident. They are empowered to face and resignify the complex situations in their lives, and they advance in their development. For example, in the graphic, motor, social, emotional skills, among others. Ezra's full potential development, each child full potential development, is our motivation for making significant and sustainable change. And you know what? Transforming begins within each of us. As Krishnamurti taught us, to transform the world, we must begin with ourselves. And what is important in beginning with ourselves is the intention. The intention must be understand ourselves and not leave it to others to transform themselves. It is important to understand that this is our responsibility, mine and yours. From this paradigm, we consider that communities' transformation must start from their realities and make the child, the family, community, the main characters of agents of transformation. That is why we have led educational projects with national and international organizations such as the Lego Foundation, International Rescue Committee, Inter-American Development Bank, International Organization for Migration, UNICEF, Hilton Foundation, among others that serve migrant population, especially Venezuelan, and also returned Colombians. We make sure that there is a relationship with early childhood centers and other projects that we have around to improve quality and educational practice, as well as other partners. So we join efforts and mobilize the system towards our vision for a free and happy childhood culture. Look at this picture and you might be wondering, but how we do this? Well, we have adapted to offer our educational experience through mobile learning scenarios. These are places where learning through play takes place, places that are open to children and their caregivers and do not need much infrastructure or investment. In them, we weave learning communities based on respect, joy, participation, trust, and collective strengths. Now, well, let me ask you again, what do you think these adults are doing in this picture? Well, as you probably already guessed, they are weaving. They are weaving communities through their life stories, through their memories and traditions. It all started with a group of parents and caregivers. We invited them to participate in workshops where storytelling made their paths of life visible, while we honored their memories as treasures. During the healing process, we also invited them to enjoy caring for their children as they embraced the possibility of building a new sense of identity with new dreams, with new hopes for them and for their families. As adults, they began to embrace their new reality. They were open to let themselves enjoy. Also spending time, playing with the children. They were reminded that they also deserve to have joy and that they have the right to playfulness. They started finding their lives extraordinary in ordinary moments. Learning began to happen in meaningful ways, not only for children, but also for them. We also designed different learning experiences for children in everyday places, as you can see, on the street, drawings of houses, and also engaging in different community interactions. One of the processes we carried out was playing around the notion of home. So, do you remember what were your thoughts? What came to your mind when I asked, what makes you a home? These migrant children began to have a particular fascination with the concept of home. By asking questions to detonate different explorations and analysis, the teacher encouraged children's interest, which they expressed through their free play, through compositions, drawings, and conversations. This invited children to make tangible their thoughts and understanding of a home. Again, what is a house? What is a home? Does everyone have a home? It is essential to have a home? These types of questions triggered children's curiosity, creation processes, and adventures. The children were making sense of a situation that could have been very traumatic. They felt safe expressing their ideas and imagining what would happen if. Then, children came up with different hypotheses and ideas. For example, Fleiler said, "In the house, I have a shelter gate, a way to keep me safe." Then, the teacher invited them to elaborate on the concept of a shelter. Angelismar and Brittany proposed building one. What if we make a shelter house for those without a home? The children reflected about the most important thing for them in their house. Things like my toys, my 15 kittens, sitting on the table to eat. Through these dialogues, children show us strong relationship between the house and its connection with home, shelter, ownership, and everyday life. They started building the shelter. These processes invite the children to own their reality and understand themselves as actors capable of transforming it, creative agents of change. So much so that they invited others to join the process. They invited their families. They got involved in construction of the shelter in a very symbolic play. Brittany, for example, the mom of Brittany said, "Oh, how I wish I had spaces like this and shelter to play in all day." These play experiences strengthened the children's sense of identity, the recognition and respect for who they are, their tradition and ways of living. In these scenarios, we understand play not just as an activity, but as a mindset, as a strategy that helps us connecting the past, the present, and the future. Well, now I would like to invite you to listen to Ruby. Ruby is the teacher who led this project about the home with the children. So listen to her.
Los niños y las niñas, a partir de su experiencia de vida, de sus conversaciones, ideas, saberes y juegos, me han enseñado lo hermoso que es ser humano. Me han enseñado lo importante que es la perseverancia y el trabajo en equipo para lograr grandes cosas. A través de la manera en que ellos ven el mundo, me han enseñado lo valioso de la solidaridad, el valor de las cosas más sencillas como una sonrisa o un abrazo. Me han enseñado lo valioso de la cultura, de las culturas y la importancia de la misma en los primeros años de vida. Ellos, con su espontaneidad, me han mostrado que el mundo está hecho para todos y que vivir en él es más bello cuando lo hacemos en paz y con los ojos de la diversidad. Me han enseñado que el ser auténticos tiene un gran poder y lo hermoso que es la libertad. Me han enseñado o me enseñan día a día que estamos para servir a los demás y que absolutamente todo lo que nos imaginamos y nos proponemos lo podemos hacer posible. Gracias a los niños y a las niñas, mi niña interior sigue más viva que nunca.
I admire so much how Ruby rescued the essence of teaching. Teaching as a process that is not one way, that is two ways, is reciprocal. I admire how she accompanied the children, but allowed herself to be influenced by them, to be inspired by their ideas and moved by their actions. What if we understand that this playful disposition or play environments do not occur in isolation and do not belong to a confined place? They are related and can happen in any moment. It is our responsibility as educators and leaders to embrace this way of thinking and acting. This helps us to build interactions that benefit everyone, especially the children. The children of Soacha sent a letter to the mayor inviting him into his shelter and to tell others that there was a place for them to feel at home. With the support of their teachers, children became agents of change who call on all of us to become active actors of the system and to think about how can we contribute on their development and learning. Today, we woke up with the news that dozens of Mexican migrants died in a fire locked in a government facilities in the border of Ciudad Juárez in Mexico. Today, there are almost 300 million migrants in the world. What if we focus on quality educational experiences for early childhood, to transform communities, to transform this reality? What if these good practices become objects of research to account for the power of play in context of crisis or emergency by changing paradigms? What if we break walls, build a social fabric of kindness? What if we make a difference? Maybe we will then listen to the person who once said, "We live in borrowed places," now saying, "We all belong and have a place wherever we are." Well, I thank you so much for this opportunity and encourage all of you to make that difference and to join this movement.